let's take a look at the use of the input statement. So suppose that inside my main.py, I just write the following: input, and then just some phrase. When I run this, what happens is that Python prints the statement that I included inside the input as parentheses as a parameter. And then it just pauses. So whatever else follows this code will not execute until something is typed in here and then you hit enter. Now in this case, we had nothing to follow it, so it just went back to the prompt. So that's the basic idea of the input statement. It prints something on the screen and it halts execution of the program. And it's waiting for the user to hit enter. So the way that we're going to use the input statement is we can also assign whatever is typed into a variable. So suppose I say name is equal to input, and now I'm going to change this to enter your name. So now whatever is typed in after the input prompt appears on the screen will be stored in this variable name. So now when I run this and I type in my name, go back to the prompt because there's no code after this, and now if I look and see what's in the variable name, it contains Charles because that's what I typed in when the prompt appeared. So that's how we can gather input from the user. One of the things to keep in mind is that by default, the variable that you assign, in this case, name equals input, name is always going to be a string. So if I had another statement and I said age equals input, enter your age, and I run this, and so it's going to wait for me to type in something and then hit enter for the first input statement, and then it's going to do that again, and suppose that I type in my age. Okay, now if I look at these variables, you can see that the 63 is surrounded by quotes. If I ask what type of variable age is, it is a string variable. So whether I enter letters or punctuation marks or digits, this is always going to produce a string variable. So what we need to do if we're going to use this in the program and do some mathematical operations on it, we need to convert it to either a float, if it's fine for it always to be an integer, or if we think we need something that could be a decimal, we need to convert it to a float. So we could say age equals float age. And so now when I run this and I type my name here and I type my age, now when I look at age, well, first of all, when I print it, quotes are gone, it's got a decimal, and it's because I converted it to a float. And so now when I ask what type of variable is age, it's a float. If, on the other hand, I had said equals int age, and I run this, then I type my name again, and now when I type my age, and I ask print, now it shows that it's an integer. It did not include the decimal any longer, and now I can just say type age, and I see that now it's an integer. So now I could have something here. I have print 5 years ago you were, and I could just have age minus 5, and now that will make sense because age is a numerical variable. And so whereas previously, before we converted it, we would have gotten an error message when we tried to subtract 5 because before the conversion, age was a string variable and we cannot subtract a number from a string variable. Okay, so there we go. So that's how we use the input statement, and that's how we convert it. We can also actually cut out a line here by saying, rather than having a separate line, we can say age is equal to int input. And now when I run this, and I find out what is type age, it's already been converted to an integer because of this enclosing the input statement inside the int statement, or int function. Okay, so that's how we use input statement to gather data from the user. The data will be by default as a string variable, so we may sometimes have to convert it either to an integer or to a float.